Hello, welcome to Scrap Time episode 931. My name is Christine, and on today's episode I'm showing you Wendy Vecchi's Stamp It, Stencil It kits. Today I'm showing you Wendy Vecchi's new Stamp It, Stencil It kits. And here are some samples I made. I had done the background using distress inks. And the flower, I'm going to show you how I stamped and colored the flower, and then how we're going to cut out the top flowers using our Scan and Cut, and then just finish it off with some glossy accents. So let's check them out. So when you get the Stamp It, Stencil It, you get the stamp and the stencil. This one here is Perfect Peony. This is Fresh and Funky. I just put the stencil in the back, but they all come with stencils. We have Build a Blossom. So you have your flower and your leaves, and then on the back you have the stencil for the flower and the stencil for the leaves. Darling Daisies. You get two cute little stamps with the stencil. In Full Bloom, so it's the flower and leaves, and then you have it divided with the stencil for the flower and the stencil for the leaves. And then today we are going to be using Zinnia. So I have my stamp and I have my stencil. So I am going to start by stamping my image directly onto my card. I'm using black archival ink for this. And we're going to just stamp it on. Like that. So now it is time to color in the image. Now when I did these cards here, because I was doing the distress ink background, I colored in the images using archival ink, just so it wouldn't blend out with the distress inks. I'm not going to finish this card off, but I'm going to do it the same way anyway, just to show you how to do it. So you want to make sure that your stencil is on right. So you can see here, I have it upside down. So when I do that, it fits over perfectly. Now you could always tape down your stencil. I'm just going to hold on to it. I'm going to use two archival inks. I have Viridian and Emerald Green. And I'm just using a makeup sponge for this. So I'm going to start with the lighter color, and I'm going to work on the leaves. And just get that ink in the stem and the leaves. And then I'm just going to go over with a bit of the darker green. And then when I remove it, you can see how it's perfectly colored within the lines. So now I'm going to work on the flower part. So I have some French ultramarine, some aquamarine, and manganese blue. So I'm going to line this up. And just start with the light. Now for this one, because I'm going to be cutting it out, I'm not as concerned. I'm cutting out a flower to put on top of it. I'm not as concerned about coloring it. But I'm just going to show you, just in case you don't want to cut yours out. I'm just layering on some blues. I got a little bit on our leaf there, but it'll be okay. And so there I have a pretty blue flower. So now what I'm actually going to do is color this as well. Now I'm only going to color the flower because I'm not going to be using the leaf part of it. So there, I quickly colored it. And I can put my ink away, and this is going to be ready to cut with the Scan and Cut. So here we have now the flower I just stamped and colored. And I have the matte. I have the standard matte because it has a bit more adhesive to it. I'm going to put it on my matte, open up my Scan and Cut, and then I'm going to press the button to insert the matte. So now I want to hit Scan and Direct Cut. And we're going to start, and it's going to scan in my flower. So it's just recognizing the flower now. So we hit OK, and it has it all outlined, and we're going to go close to our flower so it knows the area to cut. Now here, what it does, it gives you allowances. So if you wanted to have an edge around your flower, you can add how much, and it'll just give you that extra. I want it to cut right on, so I have a 0 distance allowance. But that just gives you the option if you want to have a little bit of a trim around your flower. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to cut, press the button, and it's going to cut out my flower. Finish cutting, I hit OK, and I'm going to remove it. Now just to tell you that you can place your flower anywhere on your mat, and because you're positioning it on the screen, it will cut it out. So now we just remove our paper, and there, take my flower off, and there we have our perfectly cut flower ready to put onto our card. So here we have the flower we just cut out. You can see how perfectly cut that is. I'm going to, however, in our case, cut off the stem because we don't need the stem. And I'm going to add a little bit more ink. I decided I wanted a bit more blue. Just finding my blue. So it's easy to go in afterwards as well and just add. I wanted it brighter. Okay. Now on my other cards, on these two, I had cut it and curled the edges to make it a bit more dimensional because of the type of flower it was. Whereas on this one, I just popped it up. So again on this one, because of all the petals, I'm just going to put some dimensional stickers under it to pop it up. And I'm not finishing this card completely like I did the other ones. You can now add distress inks behind to do the background. I just wanted to show you the Stamp It, Stencil It portion of it. So I can just line it up. And there I now have the flower raised up. And then I added glossy accents over it. And that is what gives you that nice glossy finish to it. I need to just get a pin for my glossy accents. It's being fussy today. Sometimes this will happen. Sometimes what I do is I leave pins in my glue so they won't clog, like this one keeps clogging on me. Let's see if I got it now. There we go. So you just go around. Now because I got a big blob out, I'm going to try and smoosh that around too. And I just use the nozzle. And you just want to cover it all with the glue, and then we'll set it aside to dry, and you'll end up with that nice sort of almost an epoxy finish on it. You can even push some on and then with your finger just smooth it out. So I'll just let that dry. I just wanted to show you though before we finish that this was the page that I used to cut the other ones, and I had colored one with the orange and reds, and the Scan and Cut, maybe because of the color, didn't see it as much to cut it, so then I had to change it to I used this lighter one. So with the lighter one with less red, it cut just fine. And then this one, actually no, this one was just stamped. I colored it after. That's what I did. So depending on the color, you may want, it may not see it when you scan it. However, these were all colored in the pinks and the yellows and the blues, and it was just fine. It was only this one that had a lot of red, so maybe the red tonal, it didn't see it as well. I'm not exactly sure why. But just something to keep in mind if you're coloring your images before cutting them out. And the green was just fine. It cut all that as well. So that is Wendy's Stamp It, Stencil It with the Brother Scan and Cut. Well, that's it for today's episode. Be sure to check out our website at www.scraptime.ca. And on our next episode, I'm showing you the Liquitex acrylic paint markers. So please join us. Thanks for watching Scrap Time.